Today is an odd day for me and for you. Today I'm going to talk about what the deep meaning is of those odd straps that Orthodox or religious Jews put on their heads and their arms. Something that most people, even Jews, don't understand. They see old men with a little box on their head or on their arm, and what does it mean? What is this ritual? All religions have rituals. Rituals are important for humankind. Animals have rituals, but man has special rituals, especially religious rituals that have deep meaning. Catholic rituals have deep meaning. Jewish rituals, Islamic rituals, Buddhist rituals, you name it. Every religion has rituals. So you see the Orthodox Jews praying sometimes in Israel or on the Western Wall, wearing these odd-looking things on their head and on their arm, and you don't know what it is. I never knew what it was, and I'm Jewish. I never knew. I thought it was crazy. What's it about? What does it mean? What's in this box? Why do religious Jews put it on the top of their head? It looks like 2001 when you find out what's in here. Inside of these boxes are handwritten Hebrew scrolls with messages from God to us to tie us to God. But I'll get into that in a minute. Where did this come from? Deuteronomy 6:8. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes. It's the same thing with the little stuff the Jews have on their doorposts. Little scrolls, messages from and to God. We learn that we have a brain, and the brain exists in one world. We have a heart that exists sometimes in another world. And then we have hands that end up in another world altogether. They call them three diverse machines. Did you ever hear that before? I'm learning this from the great Chabad organization. So what religious Jews do is they put on Tefillin in the morning. Why? It connects your head, your heart, and your hand with these leather cables, so they all work as one, with one goal, a dedicated service of God, the Almighty. And then, when you go out into the world, all of your actions and statements find harmony in a single coordinated purpose. Inside these black leather boxes are Hebrew parchment scrolls. A set contains two tefillin, one for the head, one for the arm. Three main components: the scrolls, the box, and the strap. The scrolls are inserted into the boxes made of leather that have been painted black. This is the real McCoy here. They're very powerful. They're not to be laughed at. One box is strapped to your head and the other onto your arm next to your heart. It's done once a day, generally in the morning. And certain prayers are made, very short prayers, by Jewish males aged 13 and up every day except on Sabbath and major Jewish holidays. Now, I know many of you think this is odd, but I can't account for what you think. I have to account for what I think and why I'm doing this. And then I had to think very carefully about whether to do this or not, because I don't want to blow the little power that I have gained in trying to coordinate my being through the act of tefillin, which I've never done in my life until maybe 40 years ago once. I thought it was crazy. But here I am all over again. And what I'm trying to get across to you, Jewish or Christian or other religion, is what these things mean. So you begin, let me put the phone down. I'm alone again, which is the way God made it again, alone again. And I'm going to teach you how to do this. Now, there are many ways and many methods that overlap. Weird, isn't it? And I'm going to tell you something at the end that you're not going to believe, especially if you're a drug addict. What? You heard me. You're going to see what I've discovered that I've never read anywhere. And when I've told it to some people, they said, wow, I never heard that. So they're protected in these little boxes. The one for the arm has a little protective cover, the other one doesn't. And basically, you begin by rolling up your sleeve. That's something anyone can understand. Roll up your sleeve. See the overlap between this and what you see on television? The only time you see a sleeve being rolled up on the shows that Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg do are when junkies are going to stick a needle in their arm. But we're going to do something else in rolling up our sleeve. Roll up your sleeve, and we put it on the weaker arm. In that case, if I'm a righty, you put it on the left arm. If you're a lefty, you put it on the right arm. And it's supposed to be in direct contact with your arm. Okay? Place the black box next to your heart, just below the halfway point between the shoulder and the elbow, right across from your heart. And then you wrap it. It's hard to do, honestly, sitting down, so bear with me. 1, 2, and then a third time, 3. And you make the Hebrew letter Daled, or D, on the top. And here comes the fun part. And I'll explain it. You say a blessing. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to put on tefillin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivonu lehenich tefillin. Now, a rabbi can do this better than I. I'm not a holy man at all. I'm not supposed to talk. I'm not supposed to even wink. I'm just supposed to concentrate on hooking up my mind, heart, and deeds and binding them to God. But this is for the cause of God, so I hope he forgives me. And then what happens? What you do is 7 turns around your arm. 1, 2, and why 7? The Kabbalah explains why. You're not going to find this in an ordinary book. I've delved into this, and I'm not Madonna. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She tried very hard to sell you a bill of goods. God bless her for trying, but she didn't know what she was talking about. I'm not selling any holy oils. I'm not selling any feathers. I'm not selling any crystals. I'm not selling any healing lotions. I'm not selling any meditation mats. Nothing. Sorry. It's a little confusing for me to do this here. 7 times. Why? The 7 emotional circuits of mankind. 7 emotional circuits. Your psychiatrist would never tell you that. 7 emotional circuits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Kabbalah teaches us about numerology. And then we get the head tefillin. This is the odd one. Take off my straw hat. Put on my weird thing. An anti-Semite said, why do you Jews wear those little beanies on your head? I said, why does the Pope wear one? People say a lot of odd things about things they don't understand. That's called religious intolerance. Religious tolerance means listening to people when they're trying to say something important to them. The head tefillin, again, this back, if you open it up, religious scrolls written in Hebrew, right? And what we do, the box goes on your head just above the forehead, in the middle of your head. Looks odd, doesn't it? Directly above the point that's between your eyes. Again, it's hard for me to do this sitting down and doing a video at the same time. I hope God guides me and forgives me. I'm not doing this for ego. Now, I had to think a lot about this. Should I even do this? Are you going to blow the power you gain? Is God going to condemn you for trying to get points on YouTube for this? No, he's not going to condemn me. He knows I'm trying my best. That's all I can do. Like a child, I try my best, dear Lord. Put it on your head, above the point that's between your eyes, direct unity to God. And the back notch should rest on the base of your skull. And there we have the 2 things. Center the box in the middle of your head. Divine energy. Ever hear people trying to pull energy down? divine energy. Now we go back to our hand. We did 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And wrap the remainder of the strap 3 times around your middle finger. It's not on my hand. Okay, 3 times. 1 above the joint, 2, 3. Everyone has a different way, different parts of the world. Then you go around the palm, you tie it to the palm, and you then lock it onto your palm, and you make one more prayer, and then you're through. I know this is very, very difficult and odd looking, isn't it? Wrapping yourself up like this, below the knuckle and around the hand, tied to the head. According to the Chabad teachings, God himself commanded that Tefillin contain 4 biblical passages which mention his unity and the exodus from Egypt. So we remember the miracles and wonders he performed for us, demonstrating that he has power and dominion over all. Powerful words. Why has God said place the tefillin on the arm next to the heart and on the head over the brain? So we submit our conscious soul, which is in the brain, as well as the desires and thoughts of our heart to him. And the tefillin act as a way to bring us to God and his powers and his wisdom. This is a commandment of God. And then all we do is make one prayer. The prayer you make, which is very simple. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. That's really all there is to it. And then in an undertone, Baruch Shem Kavod Machasuli Alon Va'ed. Now, what does it mean? A Jew is supposed to say the Shema when he's dying, by the way, is the last thing on earth. Say it when you're alive. Hear, O Israel, Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That's all it means. The little verse on the undertone is, blessed be the name of the glory of his kingdom forever and ever. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children. And you shall speak of them when you sit in your house and when you walk on the road, when you lie down and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a reminder between your eyes. You shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. That's the little mezuzah the Jews put on their doors. Even secular Jews, the bagels and lox crowd, have a mezuzah on their door. And then you hear the sweet little prayer, which I'll play for you, with someone who can actually sing. It's a very emotional thing to do this. Listen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
That's it. Now, there's a lot more to this than I know and that I have discussed today in part 1 of this. And I think I should do it all at once because I doubt that I will do this again. Maybe, maybe not. You hear about the Kabbalah, the mystical Jewish teachings, and it generally has very little meaning because it's been taught by people who don't really understand how life-changing little acts can be on the road to God. This is a little act, a small act. And I'm going to take these off in a moment and continue my discussion of what the Kabbalah teaches us about these little black boxes and God. Now, I want to say something very odd that you're not going to read anywhere else. You see this binding of the arm? See how odd that is? I wasn't joking when I said to you before, if you're a heroin addict, and your brain has been fried from Hollywood, showing you how cool it is to wrap your arm up and stick a needle in your arm. Why don't you not wrap your arm up and stick a needle in your arm? Why don't you go get some tefillin and wrap your arm up and pray to God? And see if the power of God doesn't come into you and give you the strength to resist that poison. Just saying. You say it can't work because Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg haven't taught you that in one of their vile, disgusting, filthy, pornographic movies? Maybe not. Maybe you can. So then, before I go into the next lesson, I can't believe this, 15 minutes. I may as well keep going. I'm kind of quivering a little bit from all of this. I didn't know whether to do it, whether not to do it. So I am going to remove these little leather guys, put on my fedora, put these down for a moment, and share with you what I learned so far in my discoveries, my walkings through Earth, because I'm praying to God recently in a way I haven't for years. I'm going to tell you something that you may not know. I think I mentioned on the radio many years ago. I began a radio in 1994. Just before that, I had reached a dead end in my life. PhD, 2 master's degrees, many published books, and they wouldn't hire me because I was a straight A student and from a great university, published books, PhD dissertation, published, etc. But I was a white male. I had committed a crime, and I'm talking about a long time ago. They were only hiring women, minorities, and anyone other than a white male, and that's why they've ruined the universities, by the way. But I didn't do this to be political right now, but it's tied in. Religion, politics, all related. So I went on my deck, I'm talking about 40 years ago, wandering in the desert, and I put on a tallis and I yelled as loud as I could from the bottom of my heart to God. I'll never forget it, cascaded across a canyon. And I heard my voice come back at me through the canyon. And shortly thereafter, I sent tapes to 500 radio stations, or 400. I got a list from a gentleman I had met once. And a number of stations said, oh, you're great. Why don't you try out from our show? One of them was in Boston, a station I eventually wound up on, a few others. And one was in San Francisco, KGO. And that's how my radio career began. That's how it began. God answered my prayers. Period. So now I am at another junction in my life. I turned 80 years old on March 31st. I've had a health problem. I'm looking for salvation. I'm trying to purify my soul before the time comes that I meet God. And I'm asking for his favor in helping me do so. Now, why am I sharing this with perfect strangers? Am I a fool? I hope not. I want to tell you a little bit more about the power of not only prayer, but this ritual. And I found a book, which I'll divulge to you at another time. The man is probably the most brilliant writer I've ever met in my life, Rav Dovber Pinson, Wrapped in Majesty Tefillin. So I've been reading through it, and he writes this: instead of being tied, as we normally are, to our every whim, instinct, or subconscious desire, hello, America, we untie these knots by binding ourselves to our higher purpose, principles, and values through the act of wrapping tefillin. You understand what I'm saying? We untie ourselves from our whims, instincts, and subconscious desires, which America, through the media, through every aspect of the media, teaches us to respect, meaning our whims, our instincts, and our subconscious desires are all that are spoken to by television, by radio, by social media, by ads. They're appealing to the lowest parts of ourselves. So we untie these knots by binding ourselves to our higher purpose, principles, and values, the act of wrapping tefillin. That struck me as so brilliant. I had never read this. There's so much more. It's a book, a whole book, nothing but a book. But there's so much in this book about reclaiming the self and what this means. And how by putting tefillin on even once in your life, a person alters the spiritual status of your body. And your or makif, or surrounding light, is forever changed. The or makif is like an energy field. You heard about auras? That charges the space of the soul, the nefesh, dimension of the soul. I have read that when people die, the soul does not ascend for a while. The nefesh extends up to 6 feet around the body. And according to the deep teachings, we can acquire an ownerless object by merely being within 6 feet of the object, since it is within our personal soul space. And the projection of energy is our makif. You've seen this with magicians. You've seen this with holy men in other religions, where they can move things that aren't even on there, that's in their aura. They can move things. You've seen martial artists strike people without touching them. Now you understand how all religions have a commonality in understanding the deeper meaning of the human being, the inner being, the outer being. If you're in shadow and darkness and you want to move towards light, the act of putting on tefillin, it is said, changes the tone of this projection, inclining it toward luminosity or light. So as a novice to transforming the animal within us to something godly, we seek to align our actions and instincts with our feelings and emotions, as well as our thoughts and deepest beliefs. And what is the end goal? The end goal is that what we do is in line with what we want to do and what we feel, which is in line with what we know, which is in line with what we believe is right. In other words, right from wrong. As my mother would say, everyone knows right from wrong. Not today. Not today. You see the children, they're like animals. You see people shooting each other in the streets of New York and elsewhere like animals. They become animals, lower than animals. An animal doesn't kill for pleasure unless it's a sick animal. We learn that the use of force or coercion is a symptom of powerlessness and neediness. And those, even politicians, who demand to be served, obeyed, or esteemed have low self-esteem. We understand that's what a dictator is. The powerless individual forever feels the need to control, always seeking to accumulate as much wealth or influence as possible, always afraid of losing and of loss. We read that truly powerful people emulate the supreme power, the Creator, by not only tolerating, but actually supporting and coordinating the diversity of creation. Here's the last line of the day. Real power is not over others, but for others, and I will add, through the power of God. This is Michael Savage stepping out of a normal role, normal roles. I've always talked about, look, I wrote God, Faith, and Reason years ago. I'm not going to sell you a book. I mean, there was a reason I wrote it. I should show it to you, because I may never do another religious. Here it is. Here it is. Thanks for tolerating. Here. This is me. God, Faith, and Reason. It's a man's search for God. And as I say, I never found God. I've seen snapshots, not the movie. It's probably my most important book next to Teddy and me. God, Faith, and Reason. To all my ancestors, especially my mother Rachel, for keeping the faith through the ages, and for my readers and audience without whom this book would not have been written, and I mean that for all of you. There's so many beautiful things in here. Lonesome boy on cold sand, the meaning of this, the meaning of that. Jewish gangster finds God, the meaning of Hanukkah, what is loss? Jerome's story, my father's death, rabbi in a brothel, that's a fable. The room with a view to eternity. The savage duality of man, animal soul, spiritual soul, God is everywhere. That's it. Maybe I'll do an entire podcast on God, Faith, and Reason as a follow-up, which I've not yet done, strangely enough. I'm always afraid to offend Hashem by trying to exploit God for personal gain. So this is a gift from them, meaning the geniuses, the ancestors, and don't laugh at men who wear tefillin. Don't say, who are those old Jews? What are they doing with those stupid things in their head? If you do that, you know nothing. So all I can say is respect other people, even other odd people, in their religious beliefs and in their rituals, whether they be Jewish or Christian doing the thing with the wafers or whatever Christians do. Respect their rituals. Respect the Buddhist. Respect the holy Muslim who is peace-loving. And I can guarantee you as I sit here, this tape, this little show, this little talk will reach Muslims who will thank me for this. They will thank me for this because I am trying to bring healing between the races, healing between the people. As I did on my previous video today about birds getting along with each other. If mankind cannot learn how to get along with each other, we will all disappear from this earth. And the only way this nation will heal is if we spit upon the media, who lives only to divide and conquer us. Red, blue, Democrat, Republican, gay, straight, black, white, it's all a lie to make us hate each other, to sell us things. Shalom, may peace be upon you, and thank you for listening.